Hello, I'm Samir Joshi, and I'm just creating this video for all those who wants to just kickstart with learning AutoCAD. Of course, AutoCAD is a very basic tool for any engineering or architecture activities, and there must be many more tutorials kind of material available on internet. This is one more of that sort, but I'm trying to keep this very basic for those users who are not at all familiar with AutoCAD and who wants to learn AutoCAD from scratch. So basically, when we talk about any drawings, it is made up of mainly these components like line, circle, arc, and then bit complex objects like blocks and dynamic blocks. Then we use some commands to use and insert those blocks. And of course, all the different elements on our drawings are kept on different layers in order to make them easy to review at times. Once the objects are created, we need to manipulate those objects, and for that we use several commands like copy, move, rotate, then mirror, then offset, fillet, chamfer, trim, extends, and all. So I'm going to cover few of these things, and mainly important maybe there are more number of ways to do the same thing in AutoCAD. And so whatever way you are comfortable with, maybe as a startup, you will be familiar or getting familiar with the interface of the AutoCAD, and then using the ribbon menus and toolbars menus and all. But of course, I'm not going to cover those things in detail because gradually you will learn all these things. But mainly we'll cover all these small commands and different ways to execute these commands. So let me switch to AutoCAD interface. So this is a typical interface of AutoCAD wherein we have the ribbon menus, and of course if at all I want to bring the toolbars or menu, so I can just click on this small button over here and I can say show menu bar. So it will show the menu bar as well on the top. Right. Then as AutoCAD interacts with users through this command line, so I can just click on this command line and place it left bottom. I can place it anywhere, so wherever convenient I can just place it. Okay, I can just have more number of lines in command. So this is the command line, and I can extend it the way if at all I want to see any activities which are going at the back or after I execute the command, so I'll be able to see that in this command window. So these are the ribbon menus for drawing the components and manipulating the components, modifying the components and all. So let me quickly start with the line command. We'll be talking about all other things like options and saving files and taking the backup and autosave and all as we go ahead with it. Okay, so for now I can see the my drawing number is drawing 1, drawing name is drawing 1, and I'm starting with the line command. Say there are different ways to execute the line command. One is from the ribbon bar. So quickly I can see this line at the top. Then I can go to draw menu and I can say line, and then I can give L. So in AutoCAD, space bar acts as an enter. So because none of the AutoCAD commands accept the space button. Right, so I can simply type L on my keyboard. You can just see the lower left entry of my on my keyboard on the lower left corner. So the moment I type L, it will show me all the commands which are starting with L, and I can simply, after pressing the L, I can simply hit the space bar. So that will execute, that will start the line command because it has been defined in AutoCAD that L should start with line. Now, if you want to see where all these things define, so I can go back to my Express menu and I can show you under Tools and Command Alias Editor, right? So I'll be covering all these small tips in between while we are going through the commands. So in the command alias editor, it will show me where all these short commands which you are using or which you will be using are stored. So if I simply click on any of the command and I say L, so here it shows me that when I click L, it means it has to execute the line command, right? If at all you want to change anything, you can just simply change it. Like for example, if I see type C, then it's a circle, and for copy, say if I want to use C for copy, then I can make that change over here, and for circle I can change something like CR or CI the way I want it. Only thing, it should not get repeated in this list of the alias. So that's how you can play with the short commands, and you can modify the short command to suit your preference. Fine. Going back to the line command, I'll just press L on my keyboard and hit the space bar. So it will start the line command. We know that in order to draw any line, we need 2 points, right? So it is asking me for the first point, as you can see at the bottom left corner. So I can just click on any of the point, and I can simply click. So while I say click, it's a left mouse button. So on the left mouse button, I will just click. I'll say click, 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 and say space bar will end my command, or escape will end my command. So this is how I've just drawn a couple of lines. If at all I want to repeat, I can just simply press the space bar. It will repeat my line command. Line, this, enter. Right. So this is how I can simply draw any line, but these are the random lines, right? We are not using AutoCAD to draw such random lines. We want some dimensions, we want some accuracy, we want some precision with which we have to draw the lines. Fine. So let me erase this line, right? So I will erase the line. So now if I see the selection tool in AutoCAD, there are different ways by which I can erase this line, right? The first way is I can simply without giving any command, I will just click on the top left, and I will make sure that all of the elements are included in my this window, right? You can see the border of the window is a continuous line, and within the window is a blue transparent shade. So when I select all these lines, and all the elements, all the points of the lines are within the rectangle, they are getting selected, right? The moment I'll reduce the size of my window, it will select only two objects, right? So it has shown me these two objects are selected. Okay, because all the endpoints are not getting included in the inside the window. Again, say let me press escape. Escape will end my command. Okay, a couple of times pressing escape will again uh, 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 this makes the grips disappear. Now what I'll do, I'm clicking this. As you can see, now only two lines are getting selected. As I increase the size of my window, another two lines are getting selected, and that's how. Now there is another way. I can click on the left side, and I can just make my window touch the lines, right? So that will select all the lines. So this is the crossing window. So once I select this, the all lines are getting selected, and there are two ways I can use my delete key on my keyboard to delete this line. Say I'll delete these lines, right? So that is how I deleted this line. So there are two ways. Either I click from the left side and come towards the right side, but in that case, all of the elements should be 100% within the window, or I click from the right side and go on the left side with my crossing poly window, then whatever elements are touching the window will get selected. Okay, now I have deleted this object. Say I want to bring them back. So again, there are two ways to bring them back. One is simply undo, which is very favorite command. I will just press U and enter, and that will bring the back line, right? But undo command will work with all of the CAD commands, right? You can use undo for n number of times, but specifically for erased object, the objects which are deleted, AutoCAD has given one more command. The name is oops, double OPS, right? The moment I type double O, you can see the oops command is appear on the right side window, and I'll just say enter, so it will bring back the deleted objects. I can also use the undo command to, of course, we'll be using undo command a little later in the sessions. Fine. So these are the couple of ways which I have shown you the selecting the objects. Now one more way, the erase command we will see. I can simply give E and spacebar. So E is my erase. So E and spacebar will ask me select the object. Again, I can select the object the way I want it. You can see I have selected the window, but objects only within the window have got selected and the rest of the objects are not selected, right? So again, I will repeat the command by hitting the space bar, and this time again I am selecting the whole window and erasing the lines. Right. Now we were talking about drawing lines with some specific dimensions. Okay. Now let me repeat the line command. I will simply hit the space bar. Sorry, hit the L and the space bar, and I will click the first button. Now you can see the line is not getting perfectly horizontal or perfectly vertical. What should I do to get the perfect horizontal line? I will simply turn the ortho on. How do I turn the ortho on? I have to simply hit the F8 button on my keyboard. So clicking on the F8 button would make the line perfectly horizontal or perfectly vertical. So that is how I can simply make the line perfect horizontal. Now there are different ways by which I can make this line again. Right. So I can see the length is showing me around 253 point something something. Say I want to draw a line of say 200 millimeters. So I'll just show AutoCAD the direction. I would just hit 200 on my keyboard and hit the space bar. So that will make a line of around 200. Now another thing, I want to change the direction and I want to make a line of say 100 mm, say 100, and I will hit the space bar. So that will make a line of 100 millimeter. Okay. Now I want to have a line, another line, which is exactly at 200 millimeter, right? So there is one way that I can show the direction and I can hit 200 on my keyboard and hit the space bar. That will make a line of 200. But if I do not know the distance, what can I do? I am using object tracking, right? So this time what I'll do, I will reach the end point of this particular line. So the moment I hit, just I don't have to click anywhere. I just have to go there and the green box appears there which shows me the endpoint, and then I'll come a little up, that will create a dotted line. There's a tracking line, and I when I just click over there, I don't have to hit the space bar or enter. I just have to left click, and that will create a exactly line at the same distance where my the line at the bottom is. Right. So similar thing, say I want to have a line in between this, right? Like maybe I know the distance 100, then the midpoint would be around, I would say 50. Okay. But if I don't know the distance, I can again use a tracking command. I can just bring my cursor down and I can reach the midpoint of this particular line, and if I come back it will exactly draw the line at the midpoint, and I can just click drag. Similarly again, if I want to come back on this, I will select the midpoint of this line. I'll move my mouse a bit up, and I'll just click the point and I'll hit the space bar. So that is how it has created the line command. Okay. Now, so there are certain different ways by maybe you can use the keyboard entries to draw the line command. You can give the angles. Now let us see that method as well. So again, let me give the L and hit the space bar. I will click any point. Say I want to draw a line from 50 millimeter away from this. Okay. So there are different ways again. So I'll just give dot X and hit the space bar of what? So I want, sorry, I'll hit the escape. I'll give line command, and this time what I'll do, I'll click my shift button and right click, and I would say from. Okay, and from I will click on this base point. Now I want to start at 50 millimeter, so I give some offset. I would enter the 50 at my keyboard, so it will exactly start my line at 50 millimeter from this particular point. So what I did, I just started the line command, and shift and right click will bring up the context menu, and from that I selected the from, and from is my reference from an existing object. So accordingly I can give whatever distance to start my line with. Okay, now again my ortho is on, so that's why I'm able to see the absolutely horizontal and vertical. Say although my ortho is on and I want to draw a line at say 30 degrees, so what I can do, I can just go back to my command line and I would say at the rate 75 angle 30 and say enter. Right. So what it has done, what I have done, I have given at the rate. At the rate is very important because it is a relative distance. If I would have given just 75, so it would have gone to the coordinate 75. But I don't want to go to coordinate 75, but it will, I want to have a relative distance. So I've given at the rate 75 and I've given angle 30. So it has drawn a line which is 30 degrees from horizontal and the distance is 75. Now, how do I measure the distance, right? So for measuring the distance, I can just give command di. I'm not using the menus and all because that might take little time. So in order to learn the CAD, you should be able to conversant. You should be able to getting expert with the keyboard and this. That would make you much faster. So I give di command. So that's a distance di and hit the space bar. Now it is asking me for the first point. Say I will select the first point and I will select the second point. So now you can see it has shown me the distance is 100 and x is 0 because I had selected the same line, right? Vertical line. So there is no deviation in x-axis. So in y-axis I have distance 100. Now what will happen with this line? Okay. Now let me again press enter or a space bar and I want to see the distance of this. So I'll click first point and I click second point, right? Now it has shown me the distance is 75, but in x absolute x it is 64.9 and in absolute y it is 37.5. So that is how we can see that what exactly is the distance on horizontal axis or on the vertical axis. So this was about the line command, right? Now let us erase this line. So I can give again erase command and this. Okay. Now let me make a simple tank kind of thing, a box kind of thing. Okay. So again, as we know that line is the most popular command and we'll create most of our objects using the line command. So let me give the line command. I will start from any point and I will come say around say 150, hit the space bar, then I would go to another say 125, hit the space bar, again I will use the tracking, I'll click this enter. Now I want to give some thickness to this particular box. Okay, then what should I do? If I just scroll my middle mouse button, it will zoom in and zoom out. Okay, fine. So now in order to give some thickness, let me use the offset command. Okay, you can get the offset command here. Right, so this is my offset command. So what I'll do, I'll just say O and hit the space bar is my offset. It will ask me for the distance, say whatever distance you want to offset. So let me give 3 and the space bar. Now let me zoom in this area and find out. Okay, right. I just press my scroll button and dragged it. That will be my pan command. So that will again keep our offset command continue. So offset, I will select this object. It is asking me for which side do you want to offset, whether you want to offset inside or you want to offset outside. So let me click on the outside. Now still my offset command is continue. This command line is very important for us because it is communicating with the user, right? So still my offset command is continue. I will select this, I will select outside, I will select my line and I will select click outside. So that is created the thickness. I'll hit the space bar, that will end my command. Okay, now let me come into this area and I want to close this corner. So what I'll do, of course I want it to be a sharp corner, so I can use the fillet command. So let me use a fillet command. So it is showing me the radius is 0, right? So let me escape. I can use the F and space bar for fillet command as well. So it will work at the same way. For now, the radius is 0 and I want it to be sharp corner. So I will keep it 0. Let me select the first point and let me select the second point. So this is one way to join these corners, right? Now let me show you some other way. Okay, if you don't want to give the fillet command, what you can do, you can use the grips command. I can simply select this and I can drag this particular point up to this point. Okay, now I will select this, I will drag this and hit escape, and that will join my corner. So it is as simple as that. Now I want to have some rim at the top. So what I'll do, I will again start with my line command. How long I want? I want it to be say 40. Enter. And what is the height of that particular rim I want? I want 15. Enter. Okay. Right. Now I will again need the thickness. So I will say offset and hit the space bar. The distance is 3 as you can see at the bottom. So it will keep the last distance in memory, and if you want to continue you can simply hit the space bar. Select the object and the side, select the object and the side, and your command is over. You can hit the space bar. Right, now I'll have to join these two, so I can simply again use the line command and join the two endpoints, right? You must be wondering that every time I go to the end of the line, a green box appears. Say like if I come here, a green midpoint appears. If I come here, a green endpoint appears. How from where it is coming? So let me show you that it is coming all the way from here. So that is the snapping point. So if I click on this particular bar, it will show me all the different options by which these objects are snapped. So let me show you the settings, object snap settings. So these are the endpoint, midpoint, center of circles, quadrant are by default selected by AutoCAD, right? After pressing F3, I can turn them on and off. If I don't want to have the object snaps in some cases, then I can just press the F3 and it will turn those off. So whenever I go on any line, the snapping points or the magnetic green boxes won't appear. So that is one way to turn on and off the object snaps. Right. Now let me show you something, like because it this all these points have some values, right? So if it starts with endpoint, by default object snap value would be 2. Let me remove this and I would say okay. Now let me give a small command, OS mode, that is object snap mode, and the value is 1. Okay, because OS mode is the first element is selected. Now I just keep on doubling the values and object snap will keep on changing, right? So if I again set the value to 2, my object snap settings would have changed, right? It would have selected the midpoint. Now if I give the value 3, so 1 plus 2, so it will select endpoint and midpoint both. Then 2, the double is 4. So if I add 4 plus 2 plus 1, so 4 to 6 and 7, so that will select all first 3. Let us check. Okay, so OS mode, if I give 7, enter, and go back to my object snap settings, and you will see all these 3 are selected, right? Of course, these are the commands which you might require if you are doing some automation later on at the advanced stage. So for now, let me set the OS mode value to 55. So that will be my standard setting which I'll be requiring. Endpoint, midpoint, center, quadrant, and intersections. So let me cancel this command. Going back to my box. So this time I want some radius over here. Okay. So fine. So what I'll give command fillet, and this time I'll give some radius. I'll give R and I'll hit R, right? I can click on this radius or I can hit R and spacebar. What a radius I want. Now the thickness is 3, so let me give the radius of say 1.5 and hit enter. Now what happens? I'll select this first point and select the second point. Again, I will select the first point and select the second point. Again, I'll give command fillet radius, and this time I'll give 1.5 plus 3 is 4.5. I can do that, or I can simply offset this. So let me zoom into this area. I can again fillet. There is another option of, if I don't know the distance by which I want to offset or the radius, I can do that, right? So let me give offset, and this time I will not give value 3. Instead, I will select the first point and I will select the second point. So whatever distance it will get in that particular length, it will automatically offset. So I will select this radius and I will say offset. I will select this radius and I will say offset and say hit the space bar. So either if you don't know the distance, at sometimes you don't have to measure it or it is not accurate in some precision values, you can simply select first point and second point and you can then offset through that distance. So let me run undo. I'll say undo both the times. Offset command has been undone. So let me show you that once again. So I'll give offset space bar, and again now indirectly I'm using the through command. Okay, through. So I will say first point without giving any command. I'm just selecting in the offset distance and second point. So it has automatically taken the distance, and now I am offsetting it on the outside. I am selecting my arc and offsetting on the outside. Enter. Now I don't want this corner, right? Again, one simple way which I showed you, I can simply select it, drag it, and place it on the end of the arc. I can select it, drag it, and press on the arc. Right. Or another way, I can use my trim command. So how do I use my trim command? I can simply go to trim. Now it is asking me for select the cutting edges. You can see at the bottom left corner of my mouse that select the cutting edges. So I will have to select this arc as my cutting edge. I don't have any other cutting edge, so I'll say enter. So it will ask me for select the object to trim, right? It is asking me for the select the object to trim. So this time I will select my first object and I will select my second object and I hit the space bar to end the command, right? So this is one way by which I can do the trim, right? But in order to make your work more efficient, you should always reduce the number of clicks what you are doing, right? So let me undo this. Right, the less number of clicks you use in AutoCAD, you are more efficient. Okay, so again what I'll do, I will say give trim command, and this time I will not give any cutting edges. I will simply hit the space bar and I can simply click outside and click on crossing window on both these lines and I click OK, and that's all, and that's how it is done. Okay, now again I'll do undo once to show you again. So I'll hit the trim command. It is asking me for the cutting edges, but because there is only one cutting edge and there is no other lines which are intersecting these lines ahead, so I can use this command. So I'll say hit the space bar so in order to enter it, and now I click outside and simply select these two lines and hit enter, so that will trim this. Good. Now I have created this rim on one side of the tank, right, or the box. Now I want to have it on the other side as well. There are two ways to do it, right? So one is I will just mirror this portion and bring it over here, and then again I will have to trim these two lines which are going beyond my arcs. Or else what I can do, I can simply select these two lines, I can simply delete those, okay, and I will mirror the whole thing. So I will again use the mirror command. So this is the mirror command. I will select mirror command. I can either click like this, so it will select all this object, or if at all I am giving the mirror command and selecting like this, then in order to select the whole object, I will have to select throughout the length of that particular vertical lines as well. So I will select this. Now once the all required objects are selected, I'll hit the space bar. Now it's asking me for the first point on the mirror line. So I would say this midpoint is the first point of my mirror line. I will just make sure that my ortho is on, and I will just go anywhere on the vertical direction. Either I can go top or on the bottom, and I will hit the second point. Now it has created this mirror object. Still, my command is not over. Make sure. Be careful. It is asking me whether you want to erase the first object or no. I don't want to erase this object, right? I want to have that object as well as I want to create the new one. So I'll just keep no as default and I hit enter, and that's where my command is over. So that is how I can create this complete box with mirroring objects and giving the fillet radiuses and all. Okay, fine. So if I want to repeat whatever exercise we have done today, we started with the line command. We drew some random lines. Then we wanted to erase those lines. So we use different methods to erase, like we saw the window option, we saw the crossing window, then we used the delete button, then we used the erase command. Then again, in order to bring the lines back, we use the oops command. We, of course, we could have also used the undo, but we use the oops command. Then we drew a line at around 30 degrees at 75 distance. We measure the distance. Now let us measure the distance again. How do I measure it? So I'll give di and say enter. I would click on the inside of this box. I would click on the outside anywhere of this box. Right. So it is giving me some random distance of 151, but that is not the correct one, as we saw that, right? Because the correct distance is 150, which is exactly y distance of this particular inside of this box to the outside of this box. So this is how we can use the distance command. Then we started making this tank or a box wherein I started with a simple lines inside. Then in order to have the thickness, we offset those lines. Then again we started lines over here and we created the rim for that box. We again use offset commands. Then we use the fillet command to round off the corners. Then here, in order to have the sharp corners, we use the grips command. So now let me show you one more command. Okay, so this box has to be closed from the top. Okay, oh, it cannot be like this, right? It has to be closed. So what I can do, I can simply select these two and say delete this, and I can extend these two lines right up to these arcs. So in order to do that, I will use the extend command. So I given the extend command, it is asking me for the boundary edges. Up to what boundary do you want to extend the object? So I'll select these two arcs and I hit the enter. Now it is asking me select the object to extend. So I will select one, I'll select two, and I'll hit enter. So that is how I have extended the two lines from this end to these arcs. So this is another command. There is an extend command, right? Now if I want to have this line also right up to here, then of course, as we have seen, I can delete this line, I can select this line, and through grips I can stretch these lines. I can stretch this line up to that end. So that is one option which can be done. Or I'll show you one more command, that is a join command. If you want, if you have two lines which are exactly in the same line, is aligned with each other, then I can join those two lines. So I'll hit J and I would say space bar. So that is a join, right? So which lines are to be joined? Say first is this line and second is this line. I would hit enter, so that will join my command. So now I will not have those two small lines, but I will have one continuous line from one corner to the another corner of the box. So that is how gradually we will learn more and more commands, and we will see how we can make ourselves efficient in AutoCAD. Thanks for today. Have a great time ahead. Bye bye. Do practice.